Hello and welcome to Colombo and Katie on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. A lot going on as we start the show on this Tuesday afternoon. The president just spoke, and we will fill you in on what the president talked about and some announcements and new information that he has revealed to the American people about what is happening in Israel right now, but also right now, Jake Sullivan, the National Security Advisor, is speaking to the press and giving an update. So let's dip in that to that live and hear a little bit of this. This is Jake Sullivan at the White House.
How that might affect the American hostages that are in Gaza that are now confirmed?
I'm not going to get into the operational discussions that the president and the prime minister had. That is important for them to be able to keep in a discrete channel between them. What I will tell you is that the president and prime minister did discuss how the United States can deploy expertise to help work on the hostage recovery efforts. That is what the United States is in the process of doing right now.
Under what circumstances would you put American forces on the ground to help out?
At this point, that is not something that is under planning. What we are focused on when we talk about sending experts, it is people who can work on intelligence, who can work on overall planning, who can work on coordination with the Israeli government. We are not currently sending forces to Israel, and I'll leave it at that for now. Yeah.
Has the president spoken to any of the families of the 14 American citizens who were killed?
He has not yet spoken with the families, but the State Department has been in contact with those families, and the president has been making this his highest priority as he receives briefings each day about what we are doing to try to determine both what's happening with the missing and also to ensure that we can secure the bodies of those who have perished and ensure that they get returned to their loved ones.
Are you also reaching out to those whose loved ones may be unaccounted for? One family member of a missing American said that there's been no formal attempt by the U.S. government to update the families.
We have, in fact, updated the families of the unaccounted for Americans that we know of. If there are Americans for some reason who have not yet been reached out to, that will be remedied immediately because Secretary Blinken, President Biden, everybody in the U.S. government is making this the highest priority. So we are in very regular contact with every family who has someone either missing or unaccounted for, and anyone who's not currently on that list for whatever reason, we will take care of that. That is going to be our highest priority. Yeah.
Thanks, Jake. Two quick questions, one for clarity. The Iron Dome replenishment, has it already arrived or is it on its way?
Some of the interceptors have come out of stocks that the U.S. had in country, so that those have gone over to the Israelis in short order, and then we will be flowing in additional Iron Dome interceptors so that they have the capabilities they need to sustain their Iron Dome defense systems. We are also looking at other ways that we can help augment their air defense capabilities as well as we look ahead, not just to what's happening now, but to potential contingencies that could unfold.
And then secondly, what can you say about Iran's role in the Hamas attack? And is that one of the actors you were worried about widening the war?
Look, we've said since the beginning that Iran is complicit in this attack in a broad sense because they have provided the lion's share of the funding for the military wing of Hamas. They have provided training, they have provided capabilities, they have provided support, and they have had engagement and contact with Hamas over years and years. And all of that has played a role in contributing to what we have seen. Now, as to the question of whether Iran knew about this attack in advance or helped plan or direct this attack, we do not, as of the moment I'm standing here at the podium, have confirmation of that. We are talking to our Israeli counterparts on a daily basis about this question. We're looking back through our intelligence holdings to see if we have any further information on that. We're looking to acquire further intelligence. And if there's an update to that, I'll share it with you. But as I stand here today, while Iran plays this broad role, sustained, deep, and dark role in providing all of this support and capabilities to Hamas in terms of this particular gruesome attack on October 7th. We don't currently have that information. We will continue to look for it, and if we find it, we will share that with you. Yeah.
Thank you, Jake. Looking back at the last few days, how did Israel miss this attack coming?
That's a question for you to ask the Israeli government. Obviously, The Israeli government has placed a high premium on its intelligence capacity as it relates to Hamas, as it relates to the West Bank, as it relates to Hezbollah, and why it is that they did not have warning from this is not a question that I can answer from this podium.
What about U.S. intelligence? Was there anything in what crosses your desk that would suggest that this was coming?
We did not see anything that suggested an attack of this type was going to unfold any more than the Israelis did.
And in your meeting in the Situation Room today, we saw an image earlier. At some point, undoubtedly in the last few days, the president has seen the images of the dead Israelis. What has been his reaction when shown those images?
I mean, you've seen him now twice. You've heard his voice. And this has been a deeply emotional time for all of us, as I'm sure it is for many people in this room who know people or know people who know people who were killed or who are missing. And all of us have developed close relationships with our Israeli counterparts. President Biden has a decades-long relationship with Prime Minister Netanyahu, and he can hear the pain in Prime Minister Netanyahu's voice when he talks to him. I hear the pain of my counterparts when I talk to them. So this is not just about policy or strategy. This is personal for us, and it's personal for the American people with their bonds with the Israeli people. And so President Biden has seen and felt the deep emotional resonance of this, but he has also held the conviction that his job as president is to make sure that he has the clarity of mind and purpose to take the actions necessary so that we are standing with Israel in its hour of need, so that we are working to deter a widening of this conflict, and so we are getting Israel the tools that it requires to defend itself. Yeah.
Thank you, Jake. You just laid out all of the ways that Iran is complicit in this and facilitated it over years of support for Hamas. Is that reason enough to refreeze the $6 billion that the U.S. helped unlock for them to get in exchange for the prisoners?
We have not yet had a dollar of that $6 billion spent, and I will leave it at that.
But will you refreeze it based on this activity that you just laid out, all of the ways that they are complicit in this? The administration said that if we see them going in the wrong direction, that we would stop that down. I understand the position that you guys have, that not a dollar of this has been spent. But will you prevent it from getting into their hands to allow them to, do what they do that you just laid out?
Let me just reiterate what I said, because it's unequivocal. Not a dollar of that money has been spent, and I will leave it at that.
Is it being considered?
Yes.
Jacob, if I can ask you, will the U.S. support Israel's military attacks in Gaza for as long as it takes, until the hostages are freed, or until Hamas is destroyed? I guess in simple terms, how much retaliation in Gaza is the U.S. willing to accept?
I don't think of this in terms of retaliation. This is about providing support to Israel as it seeks to defend its territory and deal with an ongoing imminent threat from Hamas terrorists who, as I said before, are acting a heck of a lot like ISIS terrorists in their barbarity and cruelty. That requires going after Hamas terrorist targets in Gaza, because even as we speak, even as I stand here, there could be rockets flying out of Gaza. Going after those sites, that's not retaliation. That's Israel stepping up to defend itself and ensure the safety and security of the Israeli people. And we're going to support them for as long as they need to ensure that Israel is safe and secure. And I can't put a timetable on that.
So to be clear, is the goal the destruction of Hamas, the guarantee that Hamas cannot launch attacks from there, the confirmation that all Americans and Israelis have been secured safely from there? Where do you draw the line? Is there a red line, and where do you draw that line of what you need to accomplish, what they may accomplish?
I'm not standing up here to draw red lines. What I'm standing up here to say is that in its hour of need, as Israel embarks on an operation to try to protect its country, protect the Jewish state of Israel, and to go after the threats that it faces, and also working closely with them hand in hand to try to secure the release and recovery of American and other hostages, we will do all of that. And I'm not here to draw red lines or issue warnings or give lectures to anybody. I'm here to say that the president has given us direction to take a series of actions. We are undertaking those actions, and we will continue to do so in the weeks ahead.
Last one, very quickly, that we heard from the families of Americans who are unaccounted for right now. They spoke publicly in Israel today. You said the president hasn't spoken to them directly. What is the president's message to those families right now who said it is the responsibility of the president of the United States to make sure their loved ones come home safely?
The president said in his remarks today that as president of the United States, he has no higher priority than the safety and well-being of Americans held hostage overseas. And he has proven in country after country his willingness to go further than any other president has gone before to secure the release and bring those people home. He is going to try to do that in this case as well, but that is a high priority for him, and that is the message that he is sending, along with a deep sense of understanding of the grief and hurt and pain and anguish they are feeling right now as they wait to hear news of their loved ones. Yeah.
Jake, the president has remarks today referred to seeking for assistance for partners, plural. Does that suggest that you've decided strategically to ask Congress for a package that includes both Ukraine aid as well as aid for Israel? And, Chairman McCall suggested even including border and Taiwan money and that. I'm just kind of hoping you could give a state of play of how you guys are thinking about this in your interactions with the Hill.
So I'm not going to get ahead of the president's request and not going to take the place of the OMB director who will present the request that we send up. But the president was very clear today that we will be making a request to the Congress, and it will include a request for funding for support to Israel. And he has also been equally clear that we are going to renew our request to the Congress for aid to Ukraine. What exact form that all takes, that will be worked out and presented by others, not by me. But the notion that we're going to go up and ask for Israel aid and ask for Ukraine aid, that's unequivocal. We are going to do that.
Beyond Iron Dome and ammunition, were there any other requests made by Prime Minister Netanyahu today that we can expect to be part of that package?
As I mentioned in my opening comments, he did make specific requests with respect to other capabilities. I'm not going to get into the details of that from this podium, but he and the president discussed that. I spoke with Lloyd Austin, who was on his way to the NATO Defense Ministerial, about those requests. Secretary Austin is following up on that. And as I said in my opening comments, you can expect to see American planes flying into Israel to deliver military capabilities to support Israel. Yeah.
Just to follow up on Iron Dome, how effective has it been in deterring the attacks? And I know you mentioned this a bit in terms of the interceptors, but has Israel asked for interceptors on an ongoing basis in light of the situation?
You ask how effective it has been in deterring. I can't say that it is deterred, obviously, because a huge number of rockets have fired, but it has been effective, as it typically is, in taking a lot of those rockets out of the sky and saving countless lives by doing so. Now, of course, some rockets have gotten through to tragic cost, and that has been the pattern we have seen in previous conflicts as well. Now, Israel will have an ongoing need for interceptors, because an air defense system is only as good as your ability to continue to put interceptors in that can take out the rockets that are coming to kill civilians and rain down terror on cities. And we are committed to making sure that we are working with Israel to produce and supply the requisite number of Iron Dome interceptors so that they can keep those systems going on an indefinite basis going forward, because we cannot say how long this will be going on. Yeah.
Thank you. Jake, will you support Israel militarily and rightly denounce this horrific and heinous act against Israeli civilians? How can you make sure that Israel goes after Hamas and its infrastructure in Gaza, not 2 million Palestinians who are trapped with no water, with no electricity, with no medical supply? The UN schools are overflown now. The number of dead is reaching 850 so far, including 6 members of one family of the former ambassador to Washington. How can you make sure that this is not revenge, but actually going after Hamas, who committed this horrible crime?
Well, as the president said today, the difference between countries like the United States and Israel is that we do not deliberately target civilians. We are strongest when we are committed to the rule of law, and we work to make sure that all military operations are conducted consistent with the rule of law and the law of war. That is something that President Biden and Prime Minister Netanyahu have discussed, not just in this context, but in previous contexts as well. That is something the United States has always stood for and always will continue to stand for.
Can you confirm that the Egyptian intelligence has passed information to the Israelis that the attack is imminent or some attack is going to happen?
I cannot confirm that. Yeah.
Prime Minister Netanyahu had tweeted on Saturday telling residents of Gaza to leave now because we will operate forcefully everywhere. Where is the idea of where people in Gaza will go?
Okay, we'll continue to monitor this. That is National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan live at the White House taking questions from the press corps there. The president spoke just before Jake Sullivan giving his latest update to the country about what is happening in the Middle East with Israel and Hamas. And just to give you just to quickly catch you up before we get into further, deeper discussions about everything happening in the world today. By the way, we are going to have Crane Durham from NothingButTruth.com. He will be with us as he is every Tuesday afternoon in just a few minutes. So Crane will be a part of this conversation as well. The president spoke just before Jake Sullivan and announced that at least, this is a new number, at least 14 Americans have been killed amid the Israel-Hamas war since it began over the weekend. The president said pretty firmly and strongly, and we'll get into why I think that is important in a second, pretty firmly and strongly that America stands with Israel. He said, quote, "There are moments in this life, I mean this literally, when the pure, unadulterated evil is unleashed on this world. The people of Israel lived through one such moment this weekend. The bloody hands of the terrorist organization Hamas, a group whose stated purpose for being is to kill Jews, which was an act of sheer evil." Biden confirmed that U.S. citizens were among the hostages that have been taken, saying, quote, "We know that American citizens were among those being held by Hamas." And the White House also updated the number of Americans missing and said today that there are at least 20. 20 or more is how they stated it. 20 or more Americans still missing. So 14 Americans have been killed. An unstated amount of Americans are being held hostage, and at least 20 Americans are missing. That, of course, among the hundreds of Israelis that were killed and thousands of others that were wounded. There has been a lot of discussion and a lot of grandstanding in the last 24 hours from politicians on both sides of the aisle, including one right here in St. Louis. So we'll catch you up on everything that is happening there with the situation in Israel and everything else happening on a busy afternoon here on Colombo and Katie on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
You're listening to Colombo and Katie. Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Heads up, conservatives. There is a Republican town hall with a couple of statewide candidates happening on Thursday. We're going to tell you all about it on Wednesday so you can plan and be there.
Mornings starting at 5:30 on News Talk STL.
So we just had the cleaning pros from Zero Res out at our house, the most recent visit, I should say, because we have relied on Zero Res many times over the years to bring our home back to life. Also had a long conversation just earlier today with someone who is looking into getting Zero Res out at their house as well. I cannot recommend this team enough when it comes to cleaning any surface in your home. They are the best. We talk a lot about carpets because carpets are probably the biggest, surface thing in your house that needs regular cleaning, and it's super important for all kinds of reasons. The look of your home, but also the health of your home and family. But every surface in your home, whether it be furniture, upholstery, tile, anything can be cleaned by the team at Zero Res. And right now, speaking of carpets, they have a great offer for you in the month of October. Just mention the Colombo special when you book a cleaning in the month of October, and you will get 3 rooms of carpets cleaned starting at just $129. That is crazy. 3 rooms of carpet cleaned starting at $129. Plus, you could take $50 off an air duct cleaning. Again, all you have to do is mention the Colombo special when you book a cleaning in October with Zero Res. Call them at 314-474-2020 or book online anytime at ZeroResSTL.com. Spell it forwards or backwards. It spells the same, Zero Res.
Ackerman Toyota has the 2024 models. You're going to be impressed. Check them out in person at Ackerman Toyota, Hampton and Interstate 44. In fact, you've got to see the 2024 Toyota Sequoia. Very impressive. This is the time to buy and get top dollar for your vehicle. Looking for pre-owned? Ackerman Toyota can also help you. Ackerman Toyota at Hampton and 44. AckermanToyota.com. Ackerman Toyota for life.
Investment advisory and financial planning services offered through Simplicity Wealth, LLC, SEC registered investment advisor. Insurance, consulting, and education services offered through Serenity Wealth Management.
Are you or someone you know providing or managing care for a loved one today? Did you know there could be more cost-efficient solutions for funding long-term care, even those currently living in a skilled care facility today? Financial strategist and long-term care specialist Chris Cooper of Serenity Wealth Management can show you tax-efficient strategies available to help your family manage care concerns. Whether planning for the future or managing care for a loved one today, solutions exist to provide the financial peace of mind you deserve.
Hi, I'm Chris Cooper, and I'd love to send you a free copy of my new book, A CPA's Guide to Tax-Free Strategies for Long-Term Care. You'll learn about strategies to empower you and your family, protect your savings, and make sure your loved ones get the quality of care they deserve.
Request your free copy of Chris's book by visiting SerenityLTC.com. That's SerenityLTC.com.
I really like all the things you're saying.
News, analysis, opinion.
Thank you very, very much.
News Talk STL.
Welcome back to Colombo and Katie on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Right there at the beginning of the show, just perfect timing. The president had just wrapped up his comments at the White House, and National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, actually, Katie, and we were talking about this off the air, the press was asking some really good questions.
Legitimate questions.
And Jake Sullivan was providing some actual answers.
It was a great exchange.
And
really great.
And I think we ducked out just in time because as soon as we broke away from that, I look up at the television and now Jake Sullivan has stepped away from the podium and Karine Jean-Pierre is now taking questions from the press. So
made it out in the right time.
I'm going to make a solid guess and prediction that we are no longer getting good answers and information from the White House.
This is where the
now
spin
that Jake
comes
Sullivan
in.
is done. All right. We, like I said, we will get you up to speed completely on everything happening with the situation in the Middle East, but also everything else happening nationally and locally. And to help us out, as he does every Tuesday at this time, our friend Crane Durham from NothingButTruth.com joins us. Crane, on a day like this, brothers don't shake hands. They got a hug. Thanks for your time, as always.
They got a hug and so much emotion over the last few days. And I know that we can't not watch those films. I encourage people to watch those films just because they see evil, and I think that is necessary to see the evil that we are facing. A lot going on. The president and his comments, I thought they were good in the sense of standing by Israel, basically no daylight between Israel and the United States. But I'd seen not only with this administration, but obviously previous administrations and bipartisan, by the way, the patience for Israel to have time and space to do what it needs to do. And I'd say Israel needs to win the war. We've kept them from winning the war for so many years, and that needs to change.
Well, there are people in the United States government that would, I think, fall into that category of people that do not want Israel to win the war or fight the war, and we'll get into that as we go along here. I do want to touch on some of the things that we just learned from Jake Sullivan, because again, I thought there was some important information that he just disseminated to the press. But first, Crane, this is our first time since this terrible attack and all of this unfolded in the Middle East. It's the first time we've had a chance to talk. So I didn't know if you wanted to just kind of briefly give us your thoughts and how you're feeling about this, as it all unfolds.
It is so hard because you feel powerless to do anything that would affect change when you see evil and the slaughtering of babies, women, men, soldiers, and the Allah Akbar just brought back Nick Berg, who was beheaded. I remember playing that video on my program regularly, and people would say, "Why do you do that?" And I said, because this is what we're fighting, and I don't want people to merely have the emotion about what we're seeing, because we are going to react emotionally to these things. And I understand that, and I appreciate that emotion in the sense of you wanting to stop evil. But you don't base a policy on emotion, you base it on solving the problem. And I think whether it was Al-Qaeda, ISIS, or right now what Israel has been asked to negotiate with terrorists for years, I think it's time that you put in a policy that says, hey, guess what? You're at war. You're the little Satan. We're the big Satan, and we're going to support you. And I hope that over time, this continues, this support, because the acts haven't changed. They haven't changed. Now, their ability to carry them out maybe has changed because we saw it. And them coming together with Iran and them being Sunni and Iran being Shia and thinking that's going to, no, 40% of the funding has come from Hamas, from Iran to Hamas. They get together when it comes to killing Jews. That's what they do.
So, Crane, I want to dive in here. Yeah, I want to dive in here because that's definitely one of the points. So, there were three main takeaways that I had from Jake Sullivan's discussion with the press today, and Iran is definitely one of them. So, I want to get into each one of these. So, American support, intelligence, and Iran are those 3 points. So let's start with support. Jake Sullivan just reiterated the president's statement of we stand by Israel and we support Israel. The press asked him, what does that mean specifically? And he said that right now that means supplies. And he did specifically say missiles to replenish the Iron Dome. And he said specifically that that does not mean troops. We are not sending troops to help aid Israel. Sounds very similar to what the United States is doing in Ukraine. And as much as I am on both of those sides, supportive of Ukraine defeating Russia, and certainly even more so supportive of Israel in this situation, it does make me nervous that we could, and I mentioned this yesterday, that we are getting spread pretty thin, and there's some other things happening in this world that may demand our attention in short order as well. So let's start there. Support means at this moment supplies, specifically missiles for the Iron Dome, and no troops. Are you okay with that level of support at this moment, Crane?
I want more, and I don't think the person who is making the case is able to make it because of his physical condition and mental condition. I think he has been awful in the way that he has delayed necessary rearmaments of Ukraine. And if that is what portends here in this situation, I would say that's bad news for Israel, because he's delayed things. You know, when you fight a war, you got to define victory. You got to supply it completely, And if you're the United States, you can supply it and resupply it, because those are our arms, by the way, that are coming from our country that are being built here, made here. So the arms industry, that's a economic plus for the United States. And you also have to make the moral case. And we're just supporting Ukraine. We're just supporting Israel. And I think that's good. But if we're going to do it, don't do it in a half A55 way, because it only leads to more death. And the Middle East smells weakness. That's how they make things. The strong horse, weak horse, presented by Osama bin Laden way back when, the letter.
Specifically terrorists in the Middle East, Crane,
yes.
To your point.
Yes.
There's a lot I want to get to, so I want to keep this moving here. And one of the other big points was the intelligence. Jake Sullivan was asked if Israeli or U.S. intelligence had any indication that an attack at this level was coming, and he said that neither country, the United States or Israel, he basically said both countries caught completely off guard by the size and scope of the attack over the weekend. A, do you believe that? And B, does that concern you?
Well, it doesn't help. Well, it does. It does concern me greatly. And I got to believe if that's the case, then I'm really ripping scared. It doesn't help when you're looking at one of your enemies and trying to make a nuclear deal with them, even as they are fighting and supporting and using weaponry or getting weaponry from the adversary of the front in Ukraine. Iran is what it is. It's never changed since the revolution. It's only gotten worse. And so if you don't have a heads up that Iran was planning this, that there were seeds of perhaps highlights of like, wait a second, something's up, because I know there are reports floating around that somebody, I believe the Saudi Arabians or Egyptian government gave a heads up to the Israeli government at some point. I'm not talking about they knew it was coming, let it happen. No, none of that. I'm just saying
they knew there was talk.
Tony, Tony and Katie, get these reports, and as you're digesting all the news, you got to say, well, they're unverified, but here it is.
So let me give you what Jake Sullivan just said about Iran as you get into this, because you're I think right on this track right now. So he was asked about Iran, specifically about the $6 billion recently given to Iran by the Biden administration in the prisoner exchange, which obviously has been a big talking point throughout this last several days. Jake Sullivan just now admitted to broad support, his words, in quotes, broad support that Iran provides Hamas, but he says that they have no intelligence indicating that Iran knew about this attack, knew this attack was coming or was being planned. And then about the $6 billion, he specifically said that not a penny of that money was used in funding this attack, and that not a penny of that money to this point has been spent, because the United States has the system in place to monitor. Now, we all know, and we talked about this yesterday with Dakota Wood, when you have $6 billion to pay for other things that you were paying for yourself before, all of a sudden that frees up the money you were using before for something else. So while the specific dollar bills of that $6 billion maybe didn't go straight to funding this attack, it's very difficult for me to believe that $6 billion didn't find its way into and won't continue to find its way into funding terrible acts against the United States and its allies. So that was what Jake Sullivan said. I'd like you to continue and give your thoughts.
Well, I just, and pardon my language, but Jake Sullivan's comments about this just plain suck. And they suck so much because they are in the face of evil and not recognizing, oh, really, we're going to play the name game of, oh, they haven't been released yet. They know they're going to get the $6 billion. Money is fungible. And by the way, what do we give $6 billion for? Hostages. What did Hamas take? Hostages. It doesn't take a Rip and Einstein to clue in to what we're fighting. And we play these political word games with the fact of, oh, I'm going to pull a fast one on you. It hasn't been released yet. Well, you made the agreement. Do you think that sent the signal? You think, I mean, really, he must have zero respect for the American people's intelligence. And in light of the attacks, the Israelis' people's intelligence, and how disgusting is it for him to play word games when we see this kind of heinous behavior being carried out, and we're wanting to get to the bottom of it. By the way, talk to the Wall Street Journal when it comes to Iran being involved. They seem to get the intel.
Yeah. I'm so glad you touched on that, because it's very important to note that the president, as we reported a few moments ago, in his comments today, just minutes ago, admitted that U.S. citizens are among the hostages being held by Hamas. He didn't give a number. He updated us on the number of Americans killed, which is up to 14 now. The White House also said that there are 20 or more Americans missing, and the president admitted that there are United States citizens among the current hostages being held by Hamas. We're talking to Crane Durham from Nothing But Truth. And Katie, I know you've got lots to say. Go ahead.
Crane, what does this mean for the congressmen and women that will not condemn this behavior?
Oh, we're going to get to them.
Tony has a couple of examples of some of the things that they've been saying, but what does it say whenever we have members of our government that are legitimate members of our government that will not condemn this behavior?
Well, they wouldn't condemn Nazis. I mean, think about people who wouldn't condemn Nazis. That's exactly what this is. And they're disgusting, and people have voted them in, which is their right to do. But the idea that we even have protests in this country in support of this bloodthirsty organization or organizations, Islamofascism, Islamic supremacists, however you want to put it, Shia or Sunni, you can play all the word games people want. This is evil. And for them to stand up and do what they expose themselves for being people that really need our prayers, quite frankly.
I'm so glad, Katie, that you brought that up, because I have a couple of those quotes and statements made by United States Congress people, including our very own Cori Bush. Strong statements that I think deserve a strong reaction, and refreshingly, some strong pushback from members of their own party. So I will bring you those statements and quotes, and we will discuss them and get Crane Durham's reaction to those and more here next on Colombo and Katie on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Colombo and Katie, the new faces of talk radio. Like us on Facebook at News Talk STL. Conservative talk for St. Louis.
It's your patriotic right and duty.
The government needs to step up and do its job.
This is News Talk STL.
It's well-balanced conversation.
News, analysis, opinion.
This is the perfect time to upgrade your home. Mike Ferguson here from my friends at Window World. Their number is 314-993-1800. Improve your home with Window World's double-strength glass windows. Those come with a lifetime warranty that covers all parts, glass breakage, and labor. 314-993-1800. Get a free in-home estimate. Window World is the preferred window of the St. Louis Blues. 314-993-1800 or windowworld.com.
In a world where heroes walk among us shines the David Dorn Foundation. Named after a true hero, our foundation empowers those who risk their lives to protect us every day. We stand tall with unwavering dedication to provide our first responders with equipment often not supplied.
But we can't do it alone. We need your generosity of a few volunteer hours to provide our first responders with the tools they desperately need to save lives and keep our communities safe. Visit DornFoundation.com now to be part of our critical progress.
St. Louis City, get ready to make history. Your City, Your Voice Town Hall is here, and it's more than you've ever seen before. Imagine this, Attorney General Andrew Bailey and Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft in person, side by side, hearing your concerns.
taking on your burning questions. It's October 12th. Rally your neighbors. Come and ask the questions that keep you awake at night. Visit stlouisrepublicans.com for details.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness 101. Wellness 101 is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on News Talk STL. For more information, visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Wow, that was my reaction when I walked into Napoli C, now open on the streets of St. Charles, right next door to Napoli 3. At Napoli C, it's like walking into a 2-level submarine. Fish just outside the portholes. The menu's going to be filled with various seafood, lobster, crab. Good luck with choosing. Napoli C is now open on the streets of St. Charles. Join me at any Cafe Napoli. Clayton, Town and Country, Napoli 3 in St. Charles, or right next door, Napoli C.
This hour of Colombo and Katie brought to you by Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com.
Welcome back to Colombo and Katie on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. We got Crane Durham on the line with us from nothingbutruth.com. Getting a full update here on the latest from the Middle East and the situation in Israel. A lot of information happening. So from the beginning of the show, we went live to the National Security Advisor. If you've missed anything, make sure this is a perfect day to remind you to be subscribed to the podcast because a lot of information happening very quickly, and we're getting it to you up to the second. So stay informed and up to date on everything by making sure you are subscribed to the Colombo and Katie podcast so you never miss anything that happens here on the show. All right, Crane, we were just mentioning some of the reaction from various lawmakers in the country and some of the strong statements that have been made. I'm going to, for the sake of time, I'm going to go through all of them here, and then I'd like to get your reaction to all of it. Ilhan Omar, Congresswoman from Minnesota, is the most recent person to condemn Israel and condemn the United States' involvement with Israel, and wants the United States, after the president said today that America stands with Israel, Congresswoman Omar and others want us to end our relationship with Israel and stop our support. She attacked Israel's response to the assault over the weekend and is saying that more violence is not the solution. She says, quote, Palestine residents on the West Bank have scarcely better lives than Gazans, and with the routine destruction of their homes, destruction of their crops, and violent attacks by Israeli settlers, Palestinians have few recourses for justice and accountability. Attacks from Israel and settlers against Palestinians are regularly met with impunity. Efforts to seek justice for international courts are stonewalled by the Israeli government with United States support. The Congresswoman did not clarify how she believed Israel should have responded to the attack over the weekend, but she was harshly against the counter assault launched by Israel. Yesterday, Cori Bush, our very own here in St. Louis, along with Rashida Tlaib, also Congresswoman Bush, called for cutting off funding to Israel while it remains under attack. She said, quote, our ultimate focus must be on a just and lasting peace that ensures safety for everyone in the region. Violations of human rights do not justify more violations of human rights, and a military response will only exacerbate the suffering of Palestinians and Israelis alike. As part of achieving a just and lasting peace, we must do our part to stop this violence and trauma by ending U.S. government support for Israeli military occupation and apartheid. Crane. I want to hear what you know. Like there's so much to say and so much to respond. Please keep in mind, everyone that are listening, peace is always the best solution, but they were attacked. This was a savage attack that was launched against Israel.
Well,
they're not
peace is the
just
best solution.
deciding to fight back. They were attacked.
Okay.
Anyway,
Peace
that's
is how-
the
Yeah.
least I can say about this. I'm so sorry. Go ahead, Crane, please.
No, I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt, but
No.
peace is not always the best solution. When your people are slaughtered and you have to defend yourself and take care of threats that are growing and possibly coming again, no, violence works. And war is the answer at times, because otherwise you cease to exist. And that's what we're talking about, the existence. They don't tolerate the existence of the Jewish state. That's what we're talking about. And by the way, this happened, golly, I was reading one of the books, Politically Incorrect Guide to the Vietnam War. You got to see this. See, our enemies knew that we could never be defeated militarily. They did the same thing in the Cold War overall. Useful idiots, fellow travelers, however you want to put them. These are their agents. They are that misguided, or get their funding from, or feel they get the political support from people that share their beliefs, and it is sick. It makes their beliefs no less odious. The fact is, there is moral right and wrong, and if we look at the occupied BS bunny stew, as my daughter once said years ago, sorry, honey, to embarrass you, and the idea was it's total bunk. If they had problems with their government, then go to their government within the territory. If they have a problem with being occupied, they didn't have a problem with Jordan and Egypt occupying them, only when Jews did. And, they had more rights, more economic opportunity under those situations. So they are relying on ignorance. And it's time for people to say, you know what, maybe they have a point. Well, really? Did the Nazis have a point? Tell me what the point is.
Crane,
because we're talking about the existence of the Jewish people.
Crane, whenever we talk about this existence and our reaction to what we saw with this terrorist attack, is it right? Tony and I agree that it was right for Netanyahu to come out and say, we are not negotiating with terrorists, no matter what the hostage situation is. Do you also agree with that from Netanyahu?
Well, obviously, there are. The first thing you want to do is save the hostage, right?
Right, absolutely.
And you don't want to incentivize it, so you don't negotiate with terrorists. Now, I am sure there are exceptions to the rule. I'm sure there are people on the front lines who say, you know what, if we don't officially do this, if we don't officially announce it, perhaps we can spend the money and get them back. But here's the thing. When that's done and the caveats are made for that, or the prisoner exchange, that might be a passable idea. Some might look at that and say, you know what, I wanted the person back. I knew they would die without that, and we cherish human life. My only point to that is anytime people bring up those reasons, I would say you've just encouraged more terrorism. You've just encouraged the next people to come in and kidnap others. You are growing the problem with thinking, and oftentimes I can understand it. If you think about it, a prisoner exchange with somebody, one of your loved ones, a child, sweet Moses, imagine that. It's a hell of a decision to make, pardon my language. But my point is, it doesn't change the reality. You are incentivizing it.
Yeah, it does, and it doesn't make the world or the people of that region any safer. In fact, it puts them in more danger when those negotiations happen. Crane, I wanted to, while we still have a minute here, point out that there is still a little bit of common sense in the Democratic Party. Democratic Congressman Josh Gothamer, who is a New Jersey Democrat and also Jewish, has gone completely after his colleagues Ilhan Omar, Cori Bush, Rashida Tlaib, and others that have called for the U.S. to stop their support of Israel. The congressman said today, quote, his colleagues called for America to end assistance to Israel despite the countless images of Israeli children, women, men, and elderly, including Americans, murdered by radical Iranian-backed Hamas terrorists. Families were violently pulled from their homes as hostages. This is a deliberate and coordinated terrorist attack savagely targeting innocent civilians. It sickens me. While Israelis clean the blood of their family members shot in their homes, these congresspeople believe that the U.S. should strip funding to our Democratic ally and allow innocent civilians to suffer. Well said by the New Jersey Congressman Crane. Just a couple minutes left here. Final thoughts and opinions, and maybe, what you'd like to see the next steps be for the United States.
I agree. I think the Congress, the woke people that have made these statements, their constituents who call for their resignation and their comments should be universally condemned by every member of Congress. When it comes to the problem and how to go about this, cut off the head of the snake, go after the nuclear program of Iran because it's not going away. And isolationists that are isolated, you think isolationism works? The alligator will just eat you last when they're bigger and stronger. We have to be the leader of the free world and support our allies who desire to be free. And when it comes up against evil, sooner or later we're going to have to fight it. Remember, they cheered Chamberlain when he came back with peace in our time. But Chamberlain, obviously, and rightfully so, is not remembered well in history. Okay? Churchill was. And so these things don't change. These fundamental truths don't have an expiration date. You got to deal with it, and you got to confront it, and don't do it half-heartedly. Let Israel win the war.
Crane Durham from NothingButTruth.com. Well said, my friend. Really appreciate your time as always, and we'll talk to you again very, very soon. Thanks so much, bud.
Thank you, Crane.
Great stuff there. And, of course, you can hear Crane every Tuesday with us here on Colombo and Katie, and you can keep up with him every day on NothingButTruth.com and on the Nothing But Truth Facebook page. We'll continue to monitor this, obviously, and keep you completely up to speed. But I do want to get into some of the other headlines and stories of the day in a moment. Did you have any final thoughts, at least for now, on this?
I am pleasantly surprised at the exchange that we heard from the White House. I think that the reporters asked the right questions. I'm still not sure about that $6 billion. I don't know if you can unequivocally say that some of it didn't go towards something like this, which is terrifying.
Yeah.
I am happy, though, that they said we're not going to be putting any troops on the ground just yet.
For the most part, I liked what words were said today by the president and by the White House, but words and actions are very different things. And there were still some words. What you just pointed out is definitely one of them, specifically surrounding Iran and some other things that I didn't like. But there was some strong statements, and hopefully there's strong actions to follow from Biden and the White House. So we'll continue to keep an eye on this and keep you up to speed on everything, and we'll dive into more stories next on Colombo and Katie.
This time of year, heavy rains, high winds, they can hit, and if you have any loose shingles, even the smallest hole in your roof, you're taking a major gamble with your biggest investment. I can tell you from personal experience, do not wait until you have water where it shouldn't be. Don't forget that John Beal has disaster crews, which can at least cover your roof until the damage can be fully repaired. Homeowner, business owner, call John Beal, 1-800-NEW-ROOF, 1-800-NEW-ROOF.
So many ways to listen to News Talk STL.
Come join the conversation.
Enable our Alexa skill. Hey, Alexa, play News Talk STL.
Welcome to News Talk STL, conservative talk radio for St. Louis.
Always streaming at newstalkstl.com or on your radio at 1019, 94.1, and 99.1 HD3. News Talk STL. News, analysis, and opinion. Welcome home. Mike Ferguson in the morning.
There was an absolutely brutal attack on Andy Ngo. He is the conservative investigative journalist. Some of those people were sued, and there was a court ruling that let those people off the hook. Did you notice that that wasn't in the big national headlines? Somebody being attacked because they were observing criminal activity.
Weekday mornings, 5:30 till 9 on News Talk STL.
Well, it's fall, y'all. Time to give Hanson's Tree Service a call this fall. 636-379-1830. 24/7, always available at hansonstree.com. Fall is the perfect time to spruce up and beautify your landscape beds with that fantastic organic mulch in bulk from Hanson's. What else should you do? How about clear out all the overhanging trees, get rid of all the old stumps, generally clean up the homestead as we head towards Old Man Winter. They're standing by to help you today. 636-379-1830 or 24/7, always available at hansonstree.com, hansonstree.com.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm John Scott. Israel is stepping up its offensive against Hamas and is reportedly preparing for a ground invasion of Gaza. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said President Biden and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke by phone earlier today.
The call was two leaders talking to one another, one who is leading a nation that has suffered an unfathomable attack, and another nation who is standing behind them foursquare in the defense of their country. And the conversation carried on in those terms, and the two leaders spoke in a collaborative fashion, as they always do.
Meanwhile, some families of Americans missing or taken hostage by Hamas in Israel want the government there and here to secure their release.
At a news conference in Tel Aviv, Nahar Netta says he was on the phone with his 66-year-old mother, Adrian, who's originally from California, when Hamas attacked Saturday and the line cut off.
The optimistic scenario here is that she's held hostage in Gaza and not dead.
Rachel Goldberg says her 23-year-old son, who was born in the U.S., was at the music festival when the attack happened. He called her from a bomb shelter.
They were throwing grenades in, shooting machine guns, and we know that Hirsch's arm from the elbow down was severed.
Goldberg says witnesses saw him taken away by Hamas. I'm Julie Walker.
Also at townhall.com, General Motors and the union representing Canadian auto workers have reached a tentative contract agreement that could end a strike that began less than 24 hours ago. GM agreed to all items that have fought the union on, such as pensions and retiree income. Stocks finishing higher, the Dow up 134 points, the NASDAQ adding 78 points. More at townhall.com.
Relief Factor, pain relief that's natural, pain relief that works, and pain relief that attacks the source of the pain. That's the experience of tens of thousands of Americans who are taking Relief Factor right now. See their incredible video endorsements at relieffactor.com and then order your 3-week quick starter pack for just $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Find out if it can work for you like it works for me by ordering your 3-week quick starter pack today. Relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Be the next success story.
You can live out your MasterChef dreams when you find a professional on Angie to tackle your dream kitchen remodel. Connect with skilled professionals to get all your home projects done well. Inside to outside, repairs to renovations. Get started on the Angie app or visit Angie.com today. You can do this when you Angie that.
Evacuations ordered as remnants of...
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 meteorologist Kristen Cornett with your forecast. We'll see clouds increasing overnight.
Look for about a 60% chance of scattered showers and thunderstorms moving in after 4 a.m. These may affect the morning commute, but they should be gone by late morning. We'll see a much warmer day. Wednesday's high 79 degrees. Mostly clear Wednesday night as we drop to 62, and then for Thursday, sunny and warmer still with a high of 80. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Kristen Cornett.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Discover little-known strategies that could be the difference between choosing the care you deserve or having someone else decide it for you. Get a free copy of Chris's book at serenityltc.com.
Fox News commentary.
In the wake of Hamas's deadly and unprovoked attack on Israel, radical pro-Palestine groups are marching and celebrating. I'm Tommy Lahren. More next.
Why are central banks quietly amassing mountains of gold? Because they know the dollar won't last. Hi, Stephen K. Bannon, and I urge you to diversify your IRA or 401k into physical gold with Birch Gold Group. To see how it works, get a free info kit on gold by texting the word SHELTER to 989898. Birch Gold is the only gold company I trust. So text SHELTER to the number 989898 to get your free info kit now.
Savage Hamas-led terror attack on Israel, radical pro-Palestine groups around the world are marching, protesting, and even celebrating the death of Israelis. It took only a matter of hours after the initial surprise attack on Israel for pro-Palestine groups around the world to respond. New York City was home to one of these horrific displays on Sunday after pro-Palestine protesters took over Times Square, and one of these people was even captured waving an image of a swastika. Similar demonstrations also took place in London. Celebrating the slaughter of innocent civilians by a terror organization, this is a shocking low. It's not hard to be anti-terrorism. It's not difficult to condemn the unprovoked slaughter of innocent civilians. But I fear this is just the beginning because Israel's inevitable and justified retaliation will only breed more evil displays and demonstrations. Pray for peace, pray for decency. I'm Tommy Lahren.
It's a disgrace. We have a corrupt attorney general in this state. You see how she does?
News, analysis, opinion.
Because I'm the only candidate they do not want to run against.
1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Welcome back to Colombo Katie on 119 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Packed first hour there. Again, if you missed any of it, make sure you're subscribed to the Colombo and Katie podcast, or at least subscribe to the social media platforms where you can watch the show every day as well, so you don't miss anything. Any of that information, we're going to continue to keep an eye, obviously, on any new information or breaking news out of the Middle East and Israel, and if that happens, we will let you know immediately. There are some other headlines of the day that we need to talk about, and also, in just about 20 minutes from now, I love Halloween.
I do too.
But I don't think we like it for the same reasons.
Oh.
Because I don't like costume parties.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't like dressing up.
You're a grumperton.
But I love paranormal discussions. I love ghosts,
the other world,
the afterlife, and all of that type of stuff. And somebody who has been on the radio with me many times over many years, especially this time of year, is our old friend Julia Gordon-Bramer, and she is going to be with us in about 20 minutes. She has a new book out. We're going to talk about that. Of course, you can hear her every Saturday night at 8 o'clock, the host of Mystic Fix here on News Talk STL, and she is a tarot card reader as well. So we might do a little bit of a reading and just kind of help you get into that Halloween
spooky
mood.
Season.
Yeah. And just take, more than anything, take 5 minutes away from a very intense news cycle. So, as I mentioned, the whole 2 o'clock hour, great stuff from Crane Durham, great information from him. We had breaking news from the White House and all of the latest information. So, if you missed any of it, make sure you go back, check out the podcast, and stay 100% up to speed. And anything new happens, we'll let you know immediately. All right. Other headlines of the day. How about the 2024 election? A candidate dropped out of the race today.
Who's that? Who would that be?
Sounds like a big headline, doesn't it?
Yes.
But Will Hurd, former congressman and CIA member, Will Hurd has ended his bid to be the next president of the United States.
Darn.
Now, while that's not surprising at all, what is interesting is that he has thrown like full throat endorsement of Nikki Haley.
Oh.
So he has dropped out. So I'll read you part of
Yeah, I
his.
wonder
I'll read you
why.
part of his statement today. Our nation deserves a. This is from Will Hurd. Quote: Our nation deserves a leader who can unite us and navigate the complex challenges we face, particularly when it comes to our national security. I believe Ambassador Nikki Haley is the best person in this race to do that. She has shown a willingness to articulate a different vision for the country than Donald Trump, and has an unmatched grasp on the complexities of our foreign policy. I wholeheartedly endorse Ambassador Haley and look forward to supporting her for the remainder of this race. Nikki Haley responded to Will Hurd's announcement and endorsement by saying, quote, put out on Twitter, quote, America is at a crossroads and it's time to come together and make Joe Biden a one-term president. Thank you, Will Hurd, for your support and confidence. We have a country to save. So, I don't know. Strong words. Certainly wasn't one of the guys that was making waves or gaining, popularity in the polls, but somebody who was a congressman, somebody who was part of this race, pretty much unquestionably supporting one candidate over the rest.
I think that right now is a very important time for Nikki Haley because she is the only one on the conservative side of the debate stage that has that kind of experience, that has that kind of intel and knowledge and knows the inner workings of how an administration processes things with foreign policy, things with money and where it goes and I mean, sadly, war. So right now, and I hate to even use this as an example, but Nikki Haley, this is a very strong time for her to show the difference between what she would be capable of doing compared to everybody else except for Trump.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is a very strong time for her.
It should be noted, too, that Will Hurd is always been a critic of Donald Trump.
Sure.
So he's not a Trump guy. That's been very obvious. Obviously, Nikki Haley's an interesting person when it comes to the Trump dynamic because she was
is.
part of that administration, but then there has been some issues since that. So I don't know if Trump supporters by and large, Trump supporters by and large don't support anybody besides
Right.
Donald Trump. But I wonder what percentage of Trump supporters still have at least a modicum of support or confidence in somebody like Nikki Haley, or if it's like, once you're out, which I know a lot are like that. But I wonder if there are still some Trump supporters that still have an affection, at least at some level, for Nikki Haley.
I would say there are people that voted for Trump that understand, that grasp and understand what Nikki Haley was capable of doing in the administration. Now, I don't know if I would go as far as to say they're like on the Trump train, but I think that there were people that voted for Trump that still appreciate Nikki Haley and understood that she was a valuable person as a cabinet member. So that I agree with. I don't actually understand what the initial conflict between Trump and Nikki Haley was. I don't understand. I think she had one disagreement with him, and then that set everything off, which should tell you something. But her instincts and her experience have when it comes to foreign relations, will play a big part in gaining momentum and gaining the voters that she might need to catch up to a Ron DeSantis. I don't think she'll be able to catch up to a Donald Trump. But she'll surpass, I think, a Vivek or even, unfortunately, a Tim Scott because of her knowledge.
I think that this overall conversation is stark reminder. We talk about the lead that Donald Trump has, and a lot of people want to say there's plenty of time. It's so far away. The gap seems large now, but a good candidate, a good campaign can close that gap. It is not an overstatement to say that the lead that Donald Trump currently has is as close to insurmountable as possible. I would never say never, but it is massive. And kind of what we're talking about highlights this. Nikki Haley served with Trump. Mike Pence was his vice president. I know that they had ugly endings, but you would think that years of service might, have create some endearment. But Donald Trump supporters, and there's a lot of them, there's no second choice.
No.
That doesn't exist. Like, people think like, well, if we can get, the Trump people, they like Trump, but they like this person too. And maybe we can convince them that other person is good because they like him too. There is no like them too. There is no, we like Trump, but we'll accept this person.
No.
That doesn't exist.
No.
It's Trump all or nothing. And it's a huge percentage of Republican voters.
And I think that is the way that Trump operates. Trump is also, now, he did say some remarks about Kevin McCarthy, which made me laugh. I believe it was Kevin McCarthy that made me laugh. Yeah, whenever last week, which, can you believe it? It was just last week, they were going through that speakership challenge. People were asking Trump, do you have anything negative to say about Kevin McCarthy? And Trump was like, no, he didn't say anything negative about me. He said nothing bad about me. I have nothing bad to say about him. But once you are on that end of the spectrum, whenever you do kind of get Trump's wrath, there is no reining that in. There is no second choice. There is no second chance, I believe, with Trump. It is either you are in or you are fully out, and that's the way a lot of the supporters are.
Exactly. So this idea that you can maybe get Trump supporters to accept their second choice, there is no second choice. That is not a viable strategy.
Yeah.
You've got to change. You got to figure out a way, and I don't know how you do this, but you got to figure out a way to convince Trump supporters that he's not the best person for the job.
And
try to say, hey, my candidate is very similar to Donald Trump, and if you like Trump, you're gonna like this. Like,
no, there is no.
You're not gonna. That's not gonna work.
But to bring it back to the article that you just read with this guy now throwing his support behind Nikki Haley. I'm sorry to be disrespectful. I can't even remember who this guy was.
Will Hurd.
Will Hurd. Trump also doesn't need anybody's support.
Mm-mm.
He also doesn't need anyone to throw the hat in the ring to support Donald Trump. I mean, Dan Bongino has made it very clear that he does, but Trump does not need to be backed by anyone. Trump is the kingmaker.
Yeah.
So when you have that also in the midst of this debate about who could even fathom to catch up to Trump, it doesn't matter who supports Ron DeSantis or a Nikki Haley or a Tim Scott or a Vivek. Trump is the person that you want to support you, and he doesn't need any of their support. It's a crazy dynamic that I don't think I've ever seen before.
Yeah.
Maybe with Obama. Maybe Obama is a good example of that on the Democratic side.
I'm glad you touched on Kevin McCarthy because there is a little bit of news out of the speaker situation. We reported yesterday that Jim Jordan has the early lead as far as public endorsements in the Republican Party. He's in the 40s somewhere of public endorsements by Republican members of Congress. Steve Scalise is in the 20s somewhere, and that there's no new endorsements today, but stories out about Jim Jordan today was meeting with moderate members of Congress from both sides of the aisle, trying to sort of make his case. And there's also headlines out today highlighting that, I think there's a belief that Kevin McCarthy will support Steve Scalise because he's kind of been his
buddy.
right-hand man for a long time. there are more and more reports that there is a lot of friction between Kevin McCarthy and Steve Scalise. So
I wonder why that is.
yeah, I don't know if it's good or bad for anybody to be endorsed by Kevin McCarthy.
Yeah.
I get there are still plenty of Republicans that are fans of Kevin McCarthy, but yeah, that is an interesting development that McCarthy and Scalise are reportedly now not getting along behind the scenes. So McCarthy may not be supporting Scalise like many people I think assume will happen. And I feel like what we talked about yesterday, I don't know how you feel. I feel like the momentum right now is on Jim Jordan's side.
I completely agree. I think the momentum is always going to be on someone that is, at least right now in politics, Jim Jordan is not putting up with the BS. Jim Jordan has notoriously said what he needed to say with a straight face, and there is no nicety or wishy-washy about what he is saying. And I think right now, Matt Gaetz is the perfect example. People want that in the next speaker. People want that in the next political leader. And Steve Scalise, I think he's wonderful. I think he is a good person that would, if Jim Jordan wasn't there, Steve Scalise would make a great candidate. But I don't think people want a nice person anymore. I don't think people want someone that's willing to play soft ball. They want the hard ball, and that's it. And that's Jim Jordan.
Yeah. And we'll see. There were reports that there were going to be multiple other sort of big name Republicans that were going to throw their name into the hat for speaker, but that is yet to develop. And there's no official timeline for this, but I just feel like that we're running out of time. Yeah. That if you're going to get involved, you need to be involved right now. One last interesting headline. We'll probably elaborate on this in the coming days. Steve Garvey, who is almost too old of a baseball player for me to even remember, but a World Series winning Major League Baseball player that won a World Series with the LA Dodgers and has a little bit of a following and big name specifically in California, has just announced that he is joining that Senate race for Dianne Feinstein's seat, the Adam Schiff race, the one that just had the appointment by, and he's running as a Republican. It's kind of a big name Republican in that race now that didn't exist before. I don't know anything about Steve Garvey and his politics. We'll learn. Yep. He said that he was approached by both parties, Democrats and Republicans, approached by them and asked if he would be interested in running. So I guess somebody he's 74. I'm telling you, he was a baseball player like before. He was like old and retired when I was a kid. I think he won his World Series in the early 80s.
He must feel the need.
So anyway, yeah, he was a very popular baseball player in California, so he has some name recognition in that state. And apparently they do see some value. Both sides see some value if he was approached by both parties to see if he would be interested in running. And he today officially made the announcement that he is running for that Senate seat as a Republican. So why not? Let's just make it a little more crazy.
Why not?
Steve Garvey for U.S.
Remember the
Senate.
name.
Played first base and won a World Series with the Dodgers a long time ago. All right, as we mentioned, it is that October Halloween season, and our old friend Julia Gordon-Bramer, the tarot card reader, who also now has a new book. Of course, you can hear her show every Saturday night, Mystic Fix, here on News Talk STL. She is going to join us live in studio next on Colombo and Katie on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Stream Colombo and Katie at newstalkstl.com. 101.9 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Live and local.
Listen to what those local folks are telling you.
News Talk STL.
This is Christina Straight with Straight Realty reminding you why pay more than 4. In 2003, we had a dream to start a real estate company that would revolutionize the real estate market. Now, 20 years later, after navigating through the many markets' ups and downs, we know exactly how to help you in this challenging time. I'm Christina Straight, owner of Straight Realty. Don't give away your hard-earned equity. Give us a call today, 314-441-4444, 314-441-all-4s. And remember, why pay more than 4?
Straight Realty is a licensed broker in the state of Missouri.
This is Larry Connor's commentary on News Talk STL.
And the band played on at the Biden White House barbecue, even as word came that Americans were among those killed in Israel during the Hamas attack. This White House is totally clueless, but they know one thing. If you try to blame them for that $6 billion being released to Iran, if you try to blame them for the terrorist attack, they know that can't be. Secretary of State Blinken said, let's be very clear, that money hasn't really been released yet. So many are playing politics when Israel's under attack, and that's so unfortunate. Playing politics? This White House has been playing politics with Iran and the American people. How would they know that none of that money has been used? Well, it is a fact. The money has not yet been fully unfrozen. But Iran knows it's coming. So Iran can move money around. The White House will tell you we have checks and balances. Really? Let me get this straight. Biden and his Secretary of State don't think Iran is smart enough to launder money, create shell accounts to use any of the $6 billion in advance for terrorist actions? So Iran and terrorists are not as smart as the Biden family? Is that correct?
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
I want to share something special with you. I've told you how Wellington Environmental works to keep hospitals, schools, businesses safe for their patients, students, clients, employees. Wellington can do the same for you. Perfect example. A relative went to the basement, almost knocked over by the smell. A sewer line had broken. A call to Wellington, a crew was dispatched. First thing, make the home safe. Then clean up the mess. Truly clean it up. Now, I'm telling you this because I want the best for you. Wellington Environmental. Here's the number, 314-644-4930. 644-4930. AAA rating with the Better Business Bureau. 644-4930. Wellington Environmental. Your world. Cleaner, better, safer. Be well with Wellington. If you like premium cigars and whiskey, I've got the perfect place. Lit Cigar Lounge, now open in its new space in the district, just off Highway 40 in Chesterfield. Lit Cigars for anyone who enjoys great cigars, whiskey, bourbon, tequila. Ladies, that includes you. Leather seating, numerous big screen TVs, special events featuring live music and tastings. More details at litstl.com. litstl.com. Lit Cigar Lounge in Chesterfield.
From home improvement to replacement, do-it-yourself electrical projects can be shocking. That's where Grasser Electric can help. They've been lighting up St. Louis for years. From ceiling fans and dimmer switches to repair or replacing your electric. No job is too big or too small for your home or business. Grasser Electric will even install emergency backup generators. So call Grasser Electric today before the sparks start to fly. 636-441-5200 or go to grasserelectric.com.
Mystic Fix is sponsored by Kama Flight, redefining the dance between the masculine and feminine. Kama Flight is a somatic movement practice merging yoga, meditation, and massage. Workshops in 2023 are at the Chosen Retreat Center in Sebastian, Florida. For more, visit Kama Flight on Instagram at KAMAFLIGHT.
If you are thinking about selling your home, this is still a great time to do so, and you need to call the number one home selling team in the area, the Wallner Home Selling Team of Berkshire Hathaway. There's been a lot of craziness in the economy and a lot of changes in the market, but it is still a great time to sell your home. It's still very much a seller's market. So if you were thinking that maybe the time had passed you by, it hasn't, but you never know how long the window is going to be open. So you need to call the Wallners ASAP. Now licensed in both Missouri and Illinois. So if you are hearing my voice, the Wallners can help you, and they are the best. The stats back it up, but I can tell you from personal experience that the Wallners are the best. We sold our home just over a year ago and used the Wallners to help us find our new home, which we love and wake up every day and thankful for the Wallners and their help in getting us in that home. They have the work ethic and just the personality that makes working with them so easy. A lot of confidence in the results, again, speak for themselves. They're selling 15 times more homes per year than your typical home seller. And they have so many qualified buyers right now that they guarantee to get you an offer. So don't wait. If you've been thinking about selling your home, call the Wallner Home Selling Team now. 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD for the Wallner Home Selling Team.
On the next Larry Connors USA.
The world is watching as Israel is battling Hamas. And what about Americans caught by Hamas terrorists?
Larry Connors USA. Now weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
Sitting at the edge of the bed, 1 million thoughts as I reflect. Tease me just a little, I'm not hard to persuade.
Welcome back to Colombo Katie on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Very busy Tuesday afternoon. If you don't already, make sure you are subscribed to the Colombo and Katie podcast so you don't miss anything. We started the show live at the White House with Jake Sullivan and a full update on everything happening in the Middle East. The president spoke today, got all that information. Jam-packed show today, and a perfect example of why you should be subscribed to the podcast so you never miss anything that happens here on the show, all the great conversations and information. And we post the show every day as a podcast shortly after we get off the air on basically every podcast platform. So whatever your favorite one is, make sure you're subscribed to the Colombo and Katie show. All right. It is that season. I was talking about how much, and anybody that's listened to me for any amount of time over the years knows that I love the Halloween season for different reasons than Katie. You like costume parties and dressing up.
I like the fanfare. I want there to be decoration.
That's
I
the
want
part.
The candy.
That's the part I don't like. Well, I like
costumes.
The candy. That's mostly the part I don't like.
I don't know why you don't like that.
I love paranormal stuff. I love ghosts. I love the afterlife. I love all of that stuff. And this time of year, you get plenty of content and conversation, so I absolutely love it. And one of our good friends that has been on the air with me many times over the years discussing these various things is Julia Gordon-Bramer, who is in studio with us now. Of course, she's the host of Mystic Fix, which you can hear every Saturday night at 8 o'clock here on News Talk STL. Got a brand new book out, and, of course, world-renowned tarot card reader. Great to see you.
Yes, ma'am.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you.
So I would imagine that business for you picks up this time of year as well.
Oh, sure.
Like the interest in what you do.
Yeah, I start getting a lot of Oktoberfest gigs and, of course, Halloween parties. I always have birthday parties and graduations and bridal showers and things like that. They're year-round, but, it accelerates definitely in the fall.
Yep. So would you call what you do in the realm of paranormal, or is that an inaccurate? When I say I love paranormal stuff and I introduce you, is it like, well, wait a minute, that's not exactly
No,
right.
it's in there, and sure, I mean it's different, right? Paranormal is just outside of what's kind of ordinary.
There's lots of branches of paranormal.
Yeah. I think what I do, I tend to think of it as a little more spiritual, but it's absolutely not easy to explain. And there is a kind of magic in it.
Yeah.
You know, I talk about like, okay, so I can talk to you about the psychology behind the tarot cards and all of the wisdom woven into them, but how do the right cards land
Yeah.
for you? You know, that's the hard part to explain.
And I've told this story many times when we have Julia on. I am a believer in the afterlife and ghosts and a lot of that stuff. And when it comes to paranormal conversation, but typically psychics, and I don't want to say that you're a psychic, but tarot card reading, psychic predictions, that kind of stuff. That's usually where I kind of draw the line and say, I'm not sure. That's where my skepticism really kicks in. But as I've said many times over the years, I have seen Julia personally
I made you a
make
believer.
readings that are unbelievably accurate. I always joke and tell the one about when you had told me that one of my kids was going to be in the emergency room.
Oh, right.
And a month later, we were in the emergency room.
That's when we.
I
don't
was
wanna
like,
be right.
wow, that is but good, but that
you
that is also
prepared.
part of it.
Yeah,
But that's part of I
prepared
think of the legitimacy is that it's not always
Sunshine
positive
and
and
roses.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a heads up.
You have your. You have your intel, however it comes to
Intuition.
you. However you get it, the cards, intuition,
My
magic,
spirit
whatever
intel.
it is, yeah. and you relay that, whether it be good or bad. I want to talk about the book. I want to pre-promote the book. I want to have you back on very soon when the book is available to promote it more. But I also want to do a reading. So, quickly tell people about the book and how they can pre-order. And
So
we'll dig into
tarot
that
life
also.
lessons, and this came out of my actual journals.
Wow.
So over many years of being a professional tarot card reader, I would journal the big stories, the stories that floored me, that amazed me. And, really interesting things. I have murders in here. I have all kinds of, I have gold diggers and I have scam artists and I have everything you can imagine. I mean, it's the human experience, right? And so I matched a story to each of the major Arcana tarot cards, starting with the first card, the Fool, which is my own story, because everybody asks me, how'd you get into tarot, and and how do you become one of St. Louis's top 10 psychics, and
World renowned.
and so it's all of these stories put together, and it was really just fun, and I feel like this is the book I wrote with almost no effort, because it was, it was done just something I would have written anyway. And during COVID, during quarantine, I assembled it and sent it out, and it got picked up right away.
Amazing.
So it's just been a blessing.
So it comes out officially next month, but it's available for pre-order right now.
November 7th is the release date. There's a pre-order, and I recorded an audiobook, so people who aren't really readers will get to
That's
hear
great.
me in my own voice
Love
telling the
that.
stories.
I love that.
Which was a real challenge because,
Yeah.
you don't just read an audiobook. You have to act it out.
Right.
So
Yeah, you don't want to just do a monotone read. You got to put your
Exactly.
Do you have a preferred place that they order from? Is there specific
Any
places,
major
or is it
bookseller.
okay?
Any
so,
major
got it.
bookseller. Yep.
Got it. Yeah, that's great stuff. And we will definitely get Julia back in here next month, and we'll dig into the book a little bit more. But again, pre-order it now. Tarot Life Lessons, and all the big bookstores and websites.
Yeah.
Pre-order.
With Destiny Books is my publisher.
Nice. Very good. Pre-order now. All right, we have maybe 6-7 minutes left. Is that enough time to do a
It
quick
absolutely is.
mini tarot card?
Yeah, Tony, do you want I brought Halloween decks. Do you want the zombie tarot or do you want the Halloween tarot? You get your pick.
Let's do broad Halloween.
Okay,
tarot.
okay. And shall I shuffle for you? Then
Yes,
you?
please.
Okay,
Yes, please.
and what would you like me to look at?
I would like you to look at the future, maybe the next 6 to 12 months of the Colombo and Katie show.
Okay.
Oh boy. Think positive thoughts, positive energy.
So
We've got a lot happening. We're moving to our new
Right.
Westport location in a couple of months.
Yes.
And of course, we're fully into our second year now here at News Talk STL. So there's, we're at a crucial time of the
Right.
station and the show. So
On Mystic Fix, when I do the shuffles, we have little tinkly music.
Oh,
even
nice.
with this, so we'll just pretend that's happening.
Yes.
But,
Okay,
All
not
right,
that
so
funny.
let's take a look.
Don't like the
Okay.
little do.
So,
Remember
This-
last
this
time
is-
she did this, she put one of my kids in the hospital.
so
Remember that,
this
Katie.
actually
Brace
looks
yourself.
really good.
Okay.
So we begin with the Lovers card. And so the Lovers in a career question, it's a perfect match, which I think...
It's me and Tony.
It's you
That's
and
right.
Tony. Yep.
Everyone teases us
so
that we're
We are the
we just
perfect
have
match.
these happy lovers.
Not very
And-
many people that can put up with me.
And next, I have the Emperor. And the Emperor is our visionary, he's our leader, perhaps our station brand manager.
Okay.
But I'm just seeing this going in the right direction, increasing strength, you know? So it's a terrific card.
That's great.
Now, your central card is also very interesting. It's the King of Pumpkins here. Also, in the traditional deck, this would be the King of Pentacles,
Okay.
which is around money. So
Hey.
this is good. So we're seeing whether this is increased funds coming in or feeling like, financial security.
Yeah.
That's
so
great.
really nice, really
Specifically,
nice.
hopefully for that Emperor card.
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
That's hopefully who we're talking about there.
So this is interesting because I know a little bit about this station.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, boy.
Being a host here,
And
yes.
I know that News Talk STL is going to change locations.
Yeah.
And I was just hanging out with our main guy, Jeff Allen, chatting with him before I walked in the studio.
Owner.
And so they call it Six of Bats. This would also be Six of Swords. It's a card of moving, but it's in reverse, which tells me big delay or slowdown here.
Oh,
So that's just
okay.
something.
Wait, that is actually
Yeah.
insane.
Something to, don't get too bummed out about it.
but
But
it could be happening.
There's already been
yeah,
complications.
and
Yeah.
so we go into the
move.
Four of Bats or Four of Swords, and this is just telling me that for a while you're going to be staying right where you are.
Yeah.
So I really like the long-term future.
Mm-hmm.
The nearer future looks to be a little bit of a drag, little restless energy here. You
Yeah.
can't quite launch the way you want to.
Yeah.
Oh boy, Julia.
Yeah.
That is not what Jeff and Joe would like to
Or
hear.
you,
this
Katie.
moment.
We
Yeah.
were just so we are doing we should remind everybody of this. We just did the very first one. We're going to do video updates on our social media platforms. Katie is hosting these video updates, and we're going to walk you through the process over the next couple of months, maybe now that we hear this,
Right.
however long it takes. So you'll be
that's
able to
incredible.
go on that journey with us and watch the progress or maybe the lack of progress.
Now, I
Lots of
want you
moving
there.
parts.
You're going to be right in my backyard.
Yeah,
so,
it's-
Oh,
so,
that's
yeah.
good to
We're
know.
all- we're
I
all
can
looking-
come visit all the time.
And Katie
Yay.
is very excited, and
Oh,
you can
yeah.
see it on that first video. She's like, "I'm ready to go."
I am so ready to go, but it is one of those things that it's just a long. It is supposed to be a long process. There's things that are going to be in the works, but I am ready to go, and we are going to be releasing those videos hopefully week by week.
Yeah.
If we can get it done.
So, Julia, as we mentioned, you're probably really busy. You're busy all year round, but this is probably when you're the most busy. But if people want to try to book you,
Well, I still have some open evenings for events.
How do they book you?
They can find me at probably the easiest would be Julia at mysticfix.com at
There you
my
go.
show's address.
Yeah.
And but yeah, they can also find me at juliagordonbramer.com, my website. And if they want to do a late Halloween party, that Saturday night before Halloween, I am booked. But I have some open spots around that.
Yeah.
So yeah, reach out, and if you want a one-on-one reading, I would love to do it.
Yeah, so you could do that. That's important, I think, to mention that when we talk about booking, you can come to a party, or you can do individual
events.
one-on-one. There's all
Right.
different.
I do phone readings. I
yeah.
do video readings. So lots of people are like, "Hey, can I FaceTime you?" And
Yeah.
let's go. I do email
cool.
readings even.
Oh, wow.
So people who want like a lot of privacy, you
Yeah.
know, that's a way
Yeah.
to go.
Wow.
Interesting.
Amazing.
That's awesome. Well, we'll definitely get you back on soon, but want to remind people that the book is available for pre-order. Tarot Life Lessons by Julia Gordon Bramer. You can pre-order now on all major book outlets, and we will have you back on next month when it's out, and we'll
Awesome.
dig into some of those great stories.
Thanks, guys.
Great to see you, and don't forget to be listening this Saturday night and every Saturday night at 8 o'clock to Julia on Mystic Fix here on News Talk STL. All right, that is going to do it for Colombo and Katie today. Again, make sure you're subscribed to our podcast so you never miss anything that ever happens here on the show. We'll be back tomorrow at 2, and keep it here. The O'Reilly Report is next, followed by the Tim Jones and Chris Arp Show, then Larry Connors USA. Thank you so much for listening to us and supporting us here at 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Like us on Facebook at News Talk STL. Colombo and Katie, the new faces of talk radio.
West St. Louis County? Then you can get West News Magazine delivered free to your home just by asking for it. West News Magazine is the only print source for the political, school, business, and sports news happening in your hometown. Simply visit westnewsmagazine.com/subscribe or pick up a free copy at all area Dearborn